Hey Gabe, thanks for coming into the office today. I see that you brought Carl the raccoon with you. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's good. Unfortunately, now he's very attached, and so I tried to leave him at home in the trunk. He just gets really upset, and so it's much
Yeah.
easier to just bring him with me. So
Yeah,
he's here. Yep,
I
he's
see
good.
you brought the whole car into the
Yeah,
office. That's
yeah.
nice. That's a
That's the
that's
easiest way to do it.
that's quite a feat.
Hmm.
Well, Gabe, we have a few things to talk about here. I have been thinking about just kind of the past couple years as a podcast, and Chris is great as a co-host. He's great when that motherfucker decides to
Yeah,
show up.
when he's ever here.
Yeah. But I've been thinking we could use a fresh face around here, a fresh perspective, if you will.
Yes.
And as you know, I strongly considered my dog Hank for the role of fourth rotating co host. And upon interviewing him, I realized that he couldn't talk, so that was out. And then I thought, what's Miley Cyrus doing nowadays? She's got nothing going on. She's got to have some free time. But when I when I reached out, she was very apparently extremely high, and
Ah,
she told
yeah.
me to off, and I just thought that it probably wouldn't be a good fit with the rest of
No.
us. Uh,
Unless we got like a bunch of cocaine,
yeah, I mean,
then it'd probably work.
if we just had like cocaine and ecstasy every single episode,
Yeah.
the
We
podcast
probably
would,
vibe really well.
yeah, yeah, it'd be a very different podcast,
Yeah.
but it would be fun.
No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
I figured that Carl the raccoon might be able to chime in from the trunk of the car that I keep the two of you in. But I realized that he'd probably be dying soon of his rabies, so that's not a
Well,
long
that and that
term
that's why I was
investment.
that's why I was gonna say you don't want him here because all he
Right,
does is just foam.
right,
You know, he just foams
exactly.
at the mouth and tries to bite me. Now I'm at the point where he won't bite me per se. As long as I stay still and on my side, he won't fuck with me. He'll just sit there and foam. So I just let him foam.
Yeah, just let him foam.
Whatever.
So naturally, after thinking of all these candidates, I'm at a bit of a loss, Gabe. The truth is that wait, what's this? A new co-host approaches. You guys know him from several Fantasy Files episodes, including Salem's Lot, The Lost Metal, and most recently, Sanderson's Secret Project #2. Welcome to the Fantasy Files team, Mick.
Mick,
Hey guys,
what up, dude?
Gl- thanks for letting me interview for the position. Really
Yeah.
Absolutely.
appreciate that. I,
Absolutely.
I didn't realize there was such stiff competition, in the background.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was a hard decision, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that was a real insight into the management of the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Welcome to
yeah,
our world.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm really happy to be part of the team
Yeah.
and just join you guys more often now because I've really enjoyed it every time I've been on. So it's going
Nice.
to be fun.
Yeah, we are super excited to have you on. I think that every time that you've been on, it has been just so much fun, and we've always had like good jokes, and we all just vibe really well. And so I think Gabe and I were talking a while ago. I think it was in like January or something, and we had been thinking about bringing on another co-host for a while, and we had a couple names that we were going back and forth on, and then we were like, dude, what about Mick? When he's been on, it's just been like a great time. So we're super happy to have you as part of the team. I'm super excited to get you on more episodes and just kind of get going on it. So
Yeah,
exciting times.
definitely. Yeah, I know you reached out to me earlier in the year, and it was kind of bad timing at the start of the year with
Mhm.
just moved to Australia and was trying to get set up with work and
Yeah.
everything that was going on over here. So I'm glad we could make it work, and the
Yes.
schedules are kind of aligning. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, So yeah, during this quick episode, we'll chat about how Mick will be kind of integrating
Yep.
himself with the Fantasy Files podcast and learning more about him as a reader. One thing I really like about Mick is he has really similar tastes in books as us, but also has very different viewpoints and interests to our own. So I think he'll add some good variety to the podcast. So with that, I'm going to kind of hand it over to Mick for a second to just kind of introduce himself. And Mick, if people don't know you, do you want to talk about kind of who you are and how we got to know each other initially, and then just kind of like how you got into like fantasy and sci-fi originally?
Yeah, sure. So, um, first of all, you can find me on Twitter at What Mick Reads. That's where I post the majority of my content. Well, all of it really, other than Goodreads. Still want to set up maybe like an Instagram page eventually for like reviews and more book stuff, but that's in the pipeline. It's not kind of an urgent thing at the minute. But yeah, I got into fantasy a long time ago. It's always been something I liked in movies and say I know Lord of the Rings was a like a big one and
Hmm.
my dad was always into that kind of stuff as well.
Oh, cool.
So that was kind of when I was growing up, it was always kind of in the house, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in around 2015 or so, I think I got into the Game of Thrones show and then bought the books and was just obsessed with them. Like I read them. I
Okay.
think I read them the whole way through once, and then I think I picked up another book. I can't remember what it was, and I was like, this is nowhere near as good
Mm.
as The Song of Ice and Fire. So I read it all again. And then the same thing happened again. I picked up another book. I think it might have been Name of the Wind,
Oh
and I
yeah.
picked it up and I was like, oh, this isn't as good. So I read A Song of Ice and Fire a third time. And
Nice.
then I
Oh
was,
wow.
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And then
So
I
wait,
kind of, yeah.
did you like Name of the Wind though?
I liked it, but it was just I found it kind of slow
Wasn't
and
what he was looking for after.
yeah,
Oh
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
I get it. I get it.
The framing narrative just kind of I held A Song of Ice and Fire so high
Yeah.
that I was
Yeah.
just kind of like it was just a different kind of feel to that book, so it just wasn't meeting my I don't know high expectations,
Yeah.
I guess.
I
But
Right.
get it. I get
I
it.
yeah, but I've since kind of brought those down and been become more accustomed to reading just other books.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then I took a break from reading after that, for no particular reason. But then during COVID, I was, isolating, had nothing to do, picked up, it was the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson,
Mm,
and just really enjoyed that. And then I realized about all his Cosmere stuff and the interconnected world. So I like flew through the Cosmere, all his books there in like a couple of months, and I've just been obsessed pretty much since.
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've read a lot of like probably in like the past year and a half, you've read a lot of like self-pub stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's been something I've been trying to like integrate more into my TBR on that. So what are some good ones? Like the Treadlight
Legacy of the
series, Legacy of Brightwash. Yeah, I read that there last month. That's amazing. The new one. I got the arc for that yesterday, so I'm really excited for the next one.
nice.
And what else? Like Holly Tinsley. So
Yeah.
that's like one that you guys introduced me to.
Did you read
It's
it?
been, oh yeah, I read
Oh,
that
sick.
last year as well,
Okay,
and
cool.
on the audiobook with RJ Bailey.
Mm.
So that was something like thanks to you guys I came across, and yeah,
Nice.
there's really is so much amazing like self-pub out there that I had absolutely no idea about like a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
through like Twitter and BookTube stuff like that, I've really found some amazing new books and authors to work my way through.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, there
yeah,
self-pub is really cool. It really does kind of open a whole new world of fantasy. Because when you go to Google or whatever and you type in like what are the best like this subgenre of fantasy, like what are the best grim dark books or whatever, like it's not gonna pull up We Men of Ash and Shadow,
yeah,
and so getting on to Twitter and kind of seeing kind of like almost this underground movement of fantasy books is really really cool because it gives you so much more.
yeah.
but yeah, you mentioned Game of Thrones, or A
Hmm.
Song of Ice and Fire, and maybe that should be a series of videos that we do at some point because Gabe and I have not read A Song of Ice and Fire.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We've
Wow.
both
So I quit the podcast after 10 minutes.
yeah. Yeah, we've seen like the first couple seasons of the show, but we've never read the books. So maybe
Wow.
that'll have to be a series that we do it with you at some point.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, did you ever read the sequel to Name of the Wind?
No, never got around to it. I didn't finish Name of the Wind
Oh
in the end.
shit.
Yeah, that's another
Wow.
one. It's on
That's
the
hard
list.
for
I think I'm.
Spencer to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's like what I just had to go through,
Yeah,
with the
Yeah.
exactly,
Game of Thrones.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, full
But
circle, full circle.
I think I would enjoy it more on audio, so I might eventually
Yes.
get to that. Sometime this year. I
Okay.
do hope to get to it again.
Yeah, the audio is phenomenal. I read it in print at first and I still liked it, but once I switched to the audio, it was like, oh, this is like incredible.
Mm,
So, and I think like, you mentioned it too, reading Name of the Wind right after like reading Game of Thrones is like, sometimes you just get so stuck on a series and it's like I just want that
yeah,
series. Like for me, it would have been like Dresden Files or Night Angel. I'm trying to find other books like that, and it's like, but
yeah,
nothing quite matches up to that. And so I totally understand that kind of like, this isn't quite what I want right now, kind of thing. But I think after like a couple years or whatever of like growing as a reader and stuff, I think if you went back to Name of the Wind, you would really like it.
yeah. I think so too.
So yeah, let's talk about, what do you love about fantasy and sci-fi? Like what is it about these genres rather than something like horror or thriller that you kind of find yourself attaching to?
Good question. I think first of all, just the kind of the different worlds and the just the creativity in these like new places like Westeros or like the Cradle series, for example. Just the imagination kind of that goes into the creation of these places. It just really intrigues me. I don't like modern or urban fantasy that's kind of set in the real world
Hmm.
as much. I do like the Dresden Files, obviously, but I just like to be kind of taken away from, I don't know, reality,
Right.
I guess. Maybe it's kind
Yeah,
of an escapism thing,
Yeah.
but I just find it more interesting to see the creativity that goes into these amazing worlds that you find in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. So yeah.
yeah, and I agree. And I'm just gonna add to that, a writer in the fantasy genre is not bound by any rules or any stigmas or anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the sky is the limit. You can make whatever you want. Whereas urban fantasy, it's got to be urban, or
yeah,
whether like, dark
Yeah.
horror fantasy, it's got to be scary. Like, um, mind you, all that's good stuff too. But yeah, I think there's a lot of freedom that we can feel as readers that the writer has, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Before we kind of wrap up here,
Hmm.
you mentioned Game of Thrones. Do you have like a top 3 or top 5 kind of books in your mind of like what your all-time favorites are?
Yeah, in terms of series, it would definitely be A Song of Ice and Fire number one,
Okay.
and then probably Greenbone Saga number two.
Nice.
Just I'm absolutely blown away by that.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
Yes.
pick.
just
Awesome.
and it's such low fantasy
Mhm.
that if you had described it to me as low fantasy like before I read it, I probably would have been like, oh, maybe I won't enjoy that as much. But
Right.
after even just like the prologue of the first book, I was just like, oh wow, this is something completely new, something completely different, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, that's been an amazing series. Then I've got like Stormlight 3, I've got Cradle number 4, and then Wheel of Time number 5, I would say.
Ooh,
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Have you read all of Wheel of Time?
No, I'm only on the fifth book, but I can
Okay.
already tell
Yeah.
it's probably one of the closest series to kind of scratch the itch, I guess, of A Song of Ice and Fire. It's not like as grim and violent and stuff like that, but I enjoy it, say like the prophecy side of it and the battles and the kind of magic and system. So I think it's kind of probably the most similar series in that respect.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into just kind of some of the logistics of Mick coming on board here. So basically, what we're thinking is that once a month, maybe more, maybe less, depending on what his schedule is like, we'll have him on the podcast. So you can expect to see an episode with him about once a month. There may be some months where we like record 2 episodes and he's not able to come the next month. And so we'll just kind of push those apart and just kind of post them at at the right times. The other thing is he's in Australia now. So a lot of the time he'll probably be doing these episodes before work like he is today,
Yeah.
which means there might be times where, he's got to run off near the end of an episode if we're running late and he's got to get to work or something. And then also Mick and I talked a little bit about this. We haven't talked about it too much, but if he wants to, he can do his own spoiler-free reviews and interviews and stuff like that, like you see me doing in my 15-20 minute videos, and then he can just record those and send them off to me, and I'll edit them for you guys and post them. So you guys might be seeing, if he feels like doing a review or something, he's more than welcome to post those on our channel. And then also something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I think it's finally time to kind of put it into action, is we're going to start a Patreon. So by the time that you are seeing this video, there should be a Patreon link for us in the description. And this is kind of to, pay for things like our editing software. We use multiple subscription services for like sound effects and music for our videos, as well as paying for, Zoom every month and Podbean, which puts our stuff over onto Spotify. It'll also help pay for equipment for Gabe and Mick, like if we need new microphones or green screens, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, that should be available by the time this video goes up. So if you'd like to support the channel and, get some extra content, I'll put some extra videos over on the Patreon. And hopefully soon we'll also have like shirts and hats and maybe some coffee cups or something with our logo on it that we will have available for you guys as well if you would like to support the channel in that way. I'm not sure when the merchandise will happen, but hopefully over the next 4 to 6 months, we will have that kind of sorted out and have some sort of store online, where whatever that looks like. So keep an eye out for that. But definitely, if you'd like to support us, check out our Patreon. Yeah, I think that's all the announcements that I have. Any final thoughts from you guys?
None other than I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
It's a new era for the podcast, dude.
New era, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, move over, Chris.
Yeah, move over, Chris.
Get out of here, Chris. My buddy here will fucking eat you, dude.
Yeah. Well, Mick, thank you for joining the team. We are sincerely so excited to have you. I'm so excited to have you on more episodes and just getting to talk to you more and more.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad to be here too.
Nice.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's going to wrap us up. Everyone, please give Mick a warm welcome in the comments or over on Twitter at @WhatMickReads. You can also reach out to the Fantasy Files over on Twitter or on Discord, which are both linked below in the description, as well as our Patreon. As always, subscribing and liking helps the channel grow and get seen by the algorithm, so please do that if you're looking forward to seeing more of the three of us on your screens. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode of the Fantasy Files podcast. Now, Gabe, get back in your trunk.